All right, welcome to Sub CLE. Here we are again. Today, got a, I don't know, I would consider a local legend. You can see that little poster in the back. That's not the local legends we're talking about. The local legend
not Superhost, no.
The local legend I'm talking about is Matt Sorg. You may know him from Ringworm, and I'm kind of excited. Matt, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, so what, I guess we can just get started from the beginning. Yeah, obviously, Ringworm's like a hardcore metal band. What was I kind of always enjoy like what was it that got you? What was the moment or the album or the time or the person or whatever that got you into like hardcore music?
In high school or in junior high school, I guess even when I first heard Metallica, that made me kind of put away all my Twisted Sister records and stuff, and focused on, and I wanted to hear anything else that sounded like that. Like,
which one was it? Which album was it?
The first one I got was Puppets. I got Master of Puppets when I was 15.
That was the one for me. I say that's actually the song Master of Puppets kind of changed my whole view on it.
Yeah, that was the first song I heard. There was a radio station that played on Friday nights, and I lived in Hartville, Ohio at the time. Yeah. There was a radio station we could pick up from New Philadelphia called Quick 96, and they had a stupid metal show that came on Friday nights late night, and it was Doc and the Duck. I never knew if it was like, if it was two guys, because one guy talked in a Donald Duck voice and the other guy was a regular DJ voice. I don't know if he was just talking to himself back and forth or if there were actually two guys, but they played. That's where I first heard Metallica. It's also where I first heard Slayer and Merciful Fate and all that stuff at once. Kind of, they played the crazy stuff no one else was playing at the time. Z-Rock wasn't even, I don't think, on the air yet, quite yet.
What I mean, I can kind of talk about it, but I'd like to hear what you say. What is it about? Like, what made Metallica? I think Master of Puppets, especially for some reason, that stood out. For some reason, what do you think that was?
I mean, it's obviously great, and it was coming at a time for me when a lot of those other bands I liked, the metal bands of the early '80s, were softening up, bringing in, even Iron Maiden and Judas Priest were bringing in synths for their guitars and stuff like that, and the Southern you had Metallica and Slayer and all these bands I was just discovering that had been out for a couple years prior, but I was unaware, that we're not doing no softening going on whatsoever at that point, and I just was drawn to that. I think right as Motley Crue and all the bands I liked before had piano ballads and all that stuff, there was this other thing that was going on that did what you wanted it to do.
I always kind of like the guitars on that album. It just sounded like you're banging metal on metal. It's so percussive sounding. Everything's just so abrasive. I think, and I guess as a coming of age male, it's just empowering for some reason. I don't know. So what was? So then you got into. So you're just like, hey, I got to start playing some music.
Well, no, I already had a guitar before Metallica. Before I discovered Metallica, I got my guitar in '80. I got my guitar for Christmas of '85.
Okay.
So I was just about to, Metallica was just about to steal me away from the stuff that made me want to get the guitar, which was the stuff I grew up on Alice Cooper and Kiss from a real young age. My parents took me to see Alice Cooper when I was 3.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely. I remember highlights. I remember him caught in a web and girls in spider costumes are climbing around him, and just standout stuff.
So your parents were like big metal fans? Or
well, they were. I was born in '71. They were both 17. So So 17-year-old kids in '71 were listening to Zeppelin and Sabbath and Deep Purple and Alice Cooper, and
nice.
And so that stuff was in my house all the time, when I was right about the time that I could start having memories. Those are some of the earliest memories I have is my dad's record collection, and
And where'd you grow up at?
When I was little, we were in Lodi. We were in Lodi, and then my dad got a job in Hartville right before kindergarten, right before I started kindergarten. So by that time I started school, we were in Hartville, and yeah, that's where I ended up graduating school from, and yeah.
How'd you get into Cleveland? I mean,
well, okay, so
it's not close.
Well, it was about an hour drive.
Yeah.
It was about an hour drive, but yeah, I mean, bands don't come to Hartville or even Akron, or even Akron or Canton.
Yeah.
So very rarely they do. You know what I mean? So to Akron or Canton, and so you want to see bands, you're driving to Cleveland right from the young. That's where I saw Richfield's where we saw Alice Cooper, and so Cleveland was always the spot where the music spot for in my mind, locally anyway, and as soon as I graduated, I graduated high school, and then I was playing in bands, and I.
But were you playing in a band in high school?
Yeah, I had a band in high school with my buddies from high school, Brian Boss and Damon Kahn, some of my friends. But they, Damon went to college and Brian went to the military, and I was still the one playing, and I ended up. I played for a minute with the dudes from Brain Aside. Brain Aside was Tim Ripper Owens' band before Judas Priest.
Yeah.
It was like a thrash band. But he was doing that falsetto-y, Rob Halford screaming shit over thrash music at the time. But I started playing. That band split up, and those were like kind of like local idols to us. Like they were a couple years older than us and way more experienced, better musicians. And we opened for them and liked, looked up to those guys. And so Steve Trent, the guitar player, I started jamming with him, and the other guys in the band, basically everybody but Tim, and. That lasted briefly, but Steve told me that Blood of Christ, I was really getting into death metal at the late 80s. Like, really, that was really what I wanted to do, is something like Terrorizer, Morbid Angel, Entombed, kind of stuff like that, And Steve knew that, and Steve said, hey, Blood of Christ, which was Tom Rojak from Civil Disobedience, he kind of morphed Civil into a death metal band, Blood of Christ. And they were looking to add a second guitar player. They were always just a 3-piece prior to that,
Okay.
And so I took a demo tape that we'd done with Steve, and gave it to Tom at the Death and Pestilence show at the Empire in '91.
Oh wow, yeah.
And that's how I came into the Cleveland scene. Tom, I got a call from the drummer, actually, Joey Capabianca. I got a call. My brother answered the phone, because no cell phones or whatever, it was a landline, 1991. And he said, this is where we practice. We're doing it on Friday night. Tell your brother to come. I'm like, so Mike told me, my brother told me, and I went up there, and some storage space on Brook Park Road, and we jammed, and I joined Blood of Christ, and that's how I got started in the Cleveland scene.
The Empire, that building's not there anymore, but I thought I saw quite a few bands there. That was a pretty good venue. I don't think that's come up on here.
They had a lot of good shows. They had a lot of good shows at that time, and when I was in Blood of Christ, we played there several times.
Oh, nice.
It was a cool venue. My first show with Blood of Christ, we opened up for Grave and Massacre and Terror, Brian Sekula,
nice.
Terror, at the Empire. So that was my
Yeah, do you know anything about that? Because I don't know anything about like the ownership or anything in the Empire.
I think
it just got folded.
I think they just got bought out. They wanted to put a parking lot there. That's all it is. I think that's the story.
Yeah, because it's right next to Progressive Field.
They wanted that spot for parking for the new baseball thing. For the Jake or whatever.
Well, that's how Peabody's went down into Cleveland State. Just kind of decided, hey, we want this.
Yeah, definitely. That's what happened. I think that's what happened in the Empire as well.
Yeah. So you're in you came up to Cleveland. You're what was the name of that band again?
Blood of Christ.
And then that fizzled out, or what?
We recorded a 7-inch for Seraphic Decay Records shortly after joining the band. Like, I was not in the band very long at all. We were already working on this 2-song 7-inch that we ended up putting down on Seraphic Decay Records, which at the time was a local Cleveland label, but he put out.
What was the name of that again?
Seraphic Decay.
Seraphic Decay.
It's like a legendary Cleveland. It's legendary globally, because he had bands from all over the world sending him. He put out bands from Finland, bands from everywhere. Sweden.
Really?
He put out bands from all over the place. There was very few bands he put out from Cleveland. It was just, I think, Blood of Christ and Minch, maybe, which Minch was Kanye and Steve Eggs, and just screaming into a dryer and banging on the shit, you know. But it's hilarious. It's great.
Yeah.
But that was the
obligatory Jim Kanye.
Right. Oh, he comes into the story more than just there. But I met Jim at Blood of Christ rehearsals back in '91 when I was 20 years old. You know, he was always there, banging his head and screaming and fucking.
I should have like a sound effect and like a graphic every time somebody says Jim Kanye.
Jim Kanye. Yeah. But that Seraphic Decay was known all over the world. It put out bands from all over the world, and we put out a 7-inch on it, and we were real happy about it because it was distributed by Nuclear Blast at the time. Nuclear Blast wasn't the big powerhouse label they are now, but they were already for the underground, they were huge, you know what I mean? So it was distributed in Europe by Nuclear Blast, and all their 7-inches were all their records were, you know. So that's my first thing I ever played on was that first awesome. Like official thing I ever played on.
Pretty successful stuff right off the bat.
It was pretty. It's still out. You know, it's sought after. People are looking for it. You know, it's some company in France just put out a book dedicated to the Seraphic Decay records, all the stuff they put out. Wow. You know, so it's still a thing. You know that. Yeah. The guy that ran it, Steve O'Bannon, he was Seraphic Decay Records. He disappeared all those years ago, back in the '90s. Kind of, he had a reputation. A lot of bands claimed that he was continued pressing. Because he paid you with records, you know, a percentage of the pressing, and he just kept pressing more and more, and not telling the bands, or at least that's the allegation, and it comes from so many sources that it's got to be true, you know. Right. But he disappeared, went to Texas. That's all anybody knows, really, and I have no idea what happened to him. He's kept real quiet, you know.
So was that the only thing you guys put out, or was it?
No, we did there was a demo where they were a 3-piece prior to me joining. Then we did the 7-inch, and then we went back in the studio and we did a 4-song demo, you know, that came out, and then that was it.
What studio was it? Anything?
We did the 7-inch. We did at Tom Rojak was the guitar player and singer. It was really his band, Blood of Christ, and we did the 7-inch at his uncle's studio, Demolo Studios or something. You know, it was like we were just in a condo. He lived in a condo, and he had his spare room was about just a little bigger than this one probably, and that was the studio, you know. And we had to use electronic drums because, like, you know, like the Thompson Twins or whatever, like you would see in the 80s, you know, because like pads, because you had neighbors on both sides, so you couldn't bash away on a real drum kit, you know.
I'm curious, what was he using to record with? Was it obviously analog? I mean,
he had a full-on tape, like a 2-inch tape machine. I think so. Really? I think so. He definitely had tape. It's been 31 years since I was, you know, but it was tape. It wasn't computerized or anything. No, right. We had to rent a DAT tape machine to transfer the big tape to that, and that's what we would send to the label, you know, or whatever, you know.
Yeah. That's cool. So I mean, I just love, you know, because, you know, I fiddled around with bands and stuff, and we would use those old 4-track Fostex, you know, like recorders, and we try to get like 8, you know, but the tape speed.
Oh yeah, you can double it up or whatever.
But the tape speed didn't match up on both, so it was like always off.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, I mean, but nowadays, I mean, it's crazy. Like if you're in a band nowadays, I mean, it's so easy to record. You know, back when we were doing it, I mean, you had to basically pay big money to get a good recording. You know?
Yeah.
Now you can just do it, and
you can spend virtually nothing, and then if you're smart, you find a guy that knows how to mix it and pay, and give him the money. You know what I mean?
Agree.
You know,
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've tracked a lot of stuff.
Unless you just have a gift for doing it yourself. Right. I don't. You know. So
I think the era is different. Like because I'll track stuff here, but then I'll just tell people, I'm like, pay someone to mix it, like Noah or something.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's the guy that's the guy that does it for everything I do. You know? Noah Buchanan.
Yeah. He's Well, yeah, he was on here, man. He's definitely he's a talent, for sure.
He is. He is.
Okay, so then you were doing you did that thing, right? And did no full length come out of that? Or?
No, Dwayne Morris. He played in Decrepit. He's another local guy that's done this for 3 decades plus,
Yeah.
But he had a little label. He used to put put his friends' bands out, stuff he liked around Cleveland mostly, called Dismal Records back then.
Mm-hmm.
And he put out. He's put out the CD. He's put out a CD where it compiled all the songs. Which there's 2 demos. This is the 7-inch, and there was another recording we did at Tom's uncle's studio where we recorded 2 songs and we couldn't get them to sound the way we wanted, so we ended up doing them again at Primetime in Akron, Primetime Studios in Akron, and we did. That's where we did the 4-song demo. So 2 of those songs were recorded twice, and he included both versions.
Okay.
So it's got I don't know, maybe 12 tracks or something, a CD. So not technically a full length, more like a compilation album. You know?
Okay, so and then you guys obviously played out quite a bit.
Yeah,
I mean, did you do because Flashes was around?
Oh yeah, we definitely played a lot of. We would host musicians night, bring in our gear or whatever, and play Flashes. But played Flashes.
I probably played on your stuff then.
Maybe we played Flashes a bunch and Peabody's and the old back then it was the Flats, and we went to Erie, Pennsylvania and Detroit, played some festivals up there with a bunch of other death metal bands and whatever, and never went too far. Never got too far, but played a lot regionally.
Nice. Okay, and then what happened with that?
Tom was a character. Tom was. I've heard Tony Erba use the word toxic when describing Tom Rojek, and it fits. But he just was a raging maniac, alcoholic, party machine, but he liked to fight. That was his thing. He couldn't wait to. He would catch a buzz, and then that was part of the plan. Always is at some point punch someone in the face or whatever, and and we would go places and play shows, and I was just a 20-year-old kid, just wanted to play. I like death metal. I wanted to play death metal, and I loved the band. And Tom was amazing musician. Really ripping guitar players, riffing and shit, just phenomenal. So playing with him was awesome. But then you'd go to the show and he'd start a fight with the sound man, and the sound man would then go out of his way to make us sound like shit because Tom was bringing it on. And then at the end this actually happened once, but he beat the shit out of the sound guy, got thrown in jail, and it was just it kind of was that kind of story night after night with him, and I just was I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you earlier. I forgot. What was that first guitar that you?
Oh, that I got.
Yeah.
My dad bought his friend's guitar, a buddy of his. It was a company called Electra, a Japanese Les Paul knockoff.
Oh, yeah.
Those Les Paul knockoffs from the late 70s are really sought after, though, because they were built well,
Yeah.
At the time, Gibson was making inconsistent guitars, and so people were actually liking a lot of times the Japanese. No, I sold that thing years and years and years ago. It was nice, though, and I was... I grew up with Ace Frehley, and so the Les Paul shape and everything, I was like, okay, I can work with this,
cool, right.
Yeah. My dad asked me for what I wanted for Christmas in 1985, and I was like, and before I got a chance to say anything, he's like, no Atari games, no toys. He's like, you're at an age where I want you to get something you're going to use into your adulthood. And in my head, I just thought of Twisted Sister videos where they're like, I want to rock, and strum a guitar, and your dad flies through the window or whatever. And I just said, I want a guitar, electric guitar. And he was like, rubbed his beard, and I was like, okay, that answer was acceptable, I guess.
That's
so
sweet. And then did he get you an amp as well?
Yeah, same guy that sold him the guitar, sold him a crappy Yamaha that I cranked all the knobs on and still couldn't get any kind of metal distortion out of it.
Yeah, I remember doing that. It's like, I think my grandmother bought me that guitar, and had like a little 212. But it was like no matter how much I turned up that gain, like I never really quite could get the sound, the Metallica.
Right. Yeah, you're not going to. I did eventually get my next amp I got, I think, was a Fender, a 60-watt Fender.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if I plugged into it nowadays, I wouldn't think it was anything good. But compared to what I started with, I could crank it and I could get that. I could crunch on it. I was happy with that.
That's nice. And then what was your second guitar?
I had a Kramer Striker because it was like the 80s, because it was the 80s and everybody was playing Kramers, and I was like, I thought I was upgrading. I was probably I was definitely downgrading from the Electra to the Kramer. It was probably a shittier guitar, but it had a whammy bar and it was a little more suited to the time or whatever. But that was short lived. I think I realized that one sucked pretty bad. Then I got an Ibanez RG560, which I still have that one.
Okay.
I don't use it, And then I got my first Gibson. I got a Les Paul Studio, and I just, it felt so much better than every guitar I'd ever handled before. And I've just been on Gibson.
Some weight to them,
I've just been on Gibsons ever since,
Nice. That's cool. Okay, so I wanted to go back into, so you got this Tom's beating people up. You can't take that anymore. So you're looking for something new. What was it?
I started a band with Jim Kanya.
Oh, nice.
Called From the Depths.
Okay.
And we wrote some songs before we contacted Jim, and we were jamming in a buddy's spare bedroom, a couple times a week, and Jim, we were just trying to figure out somebody that could sing for it, and Jim wasn't a singer, but we just thought, we knew how animated he was and everything, and all, it's not Pavarotti we're looking for. You just got to growl into a microphone,
Right.
And so we thought he would probably be. Let's ask Jim, and we did. We asked Jim, and he's like, and he right away on the phone, he's like, yeah, I'm not a singer, but I'd love to come down and hear what you got. And he did. He came to the rehearsal spot, and he right away was banging swinging his hair around in windmills and screaming, and like right away. And he was like, yeah, I'll do this. And he had lyrics real quick and really good lyrics too. He was doing a thing. He gave himself a pseudonym or whatever. He called himself Malcolm Judas Anthony, and he created this persona for stage and whatever. And it was all King Diamond based, basically. He didn't wear the makeup like King Diamond or anything. He made his own thing, but he was doing a King Diamond, and he not vocally. Vocally, it was death metal vocals, but kind of with he wore capes and stuff, and he wrote lyrics, told a story, not the way King Diamond tells a concept album story. Jim's were individual stories. Each song was like a horror story, kind of. That was his thing. So that we did that for a couple years, made a couple. Dwayne put that out as a full length also.
Oh, okay.
On his Dismal Records label.
Oh, okay.
Dwayne, I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
From Decrepit. He had a Dismal Records label, and he put out the first From the Depths.
Yeah, because I know Kanye was big on 7 inches and splits,
Yeah, we did 2. From the Depths did 2 recordings, and we ended up, instead of releasing them as individual demos or whatever, Jim wanted from the start to wait and put them out together and call it a full length, even though it was technically 2 different recordings. You know what I mean? So that's what that first From the Depths was.
Yeah, that's not uncommon for a lot of bands to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Napalm Death Scum is. 2 different lineups of the band, side A and side B, put out as 2 different sessions, 2 different lineups, one full length album.
I actually didn't know that. Yeah. Okay, so you were doing that. So you were doing that for a little bit, and then what would that segue?
I was also playing in Decrepit, the band I keep saying, Dwayne Morris.
Right.
And Dora was Decrepit's drummer.
Okay, right.
That was Dora's first known band. It was called Mutilation when they were just kids, and then by the time they got it out to where they had a demo and stuff, they called it Decrepit.
Okay,
maybe made some lineup changes, I'm sure, but so. I played it. Tom, when Blood of Christ split up, Tom joined Decrepit, and so I quit. So Blood of Christ split up because of the frictions with Tom, and then Tom ended up calling me and asking me to come up and play bass for Decrepit because Dwayne had joined. Dwayne, who was Decrepit's bass player at that time, had joined Incantation.
Oh, wow.
John McEntee from Incantation came to Cleveland to form a lineup. He handpicked Dwayne and Kyle Severn from the band Escalation Anger with Aaron, Aaron's old band, and Randy Perasco, who was Blood of Christ bass player. So he kind of just picked from all our bands or whatever, put together a lineup of Incantation and went on tour.
I didn't know that.
And so with Dwayne gone, they needed a bass player, and Tom called me, and I'm like, I don't play bass, but but he's like, I got the bass and the amp. You want to just play? And so I ended up, there was like no break really where we broke up Blood of Christ because of frictions with Tom, and then I ended up jumping right back into a band with Tom right away anyway.
That's funny. So, okay, so, I mean, what was your... Were you kind of like keeping the same guitar style throughout these kind of things? I mean, is your style like the same, or do you try to like switch it up a little bit from band to band, or?
That I guess from the Depths stuff was a little bit. It was more melodic. Like we went more for like we had like Iron Maiden kind of parts going on in a death metal context. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So that was more.
Well, that kind of sounds like Death to me. The band Death.
Sure. I guess so. Yeah, it was maybe with more of a Swedish flavor to it. Sure. You know what I mean? Is what we were doing. But yeah, not terribly different than what you're thinking there. You know? Yeah.
So you kind of carried the same kind of guitar style through.
Yeah, pretty much. That was it was kind of the same thing we were doing before in Blood of Christ, but now we were incorporating more guitar harmonies and stuff like that into it.
Now, was there any one of those bands where you kind of brought more of you to the table? Do you do a lot of the songwriting, or
I do pretty much all of it? Well, in Blood of Christ, Tom wrote almost everything. I contributed one song, and he liked it so much he ended up using it as the opener of the demo of the 4-song demo, the final thing that we did in '93.
That's nice.
But aside from that, mostly Tom wrote everything. The bass player contributed like one or two riffs, and most of it was Tom's. But when I started up the other band From the Depths, that was, I think I wrote everything. I wrote damn near everything, and that's kind of how most of the bands I've been in since are.
So that I guess what I'm trying to get to is that From the Depths is kind of like who you are.
I guess so. I guess I took what Tom taught me, because Tom was a couple years older than me, and also where I started playing guitar when I was 15, his dad was a guitar player, and so he was playing guitar as a little kid. I don't know. He's gone now, so I can't. We can't ask him what age that was, but he didn't even know. When I did ask him all those years ago, he's like, I don't know, way earlier than 15. When I told him I started at 15, he's like, a lot earlier than that. That's all. He didn't even really remember what age, but he had years. He's already 2 years older than me, and he started at a younger age, so he was way more advanced, than I was. Good enough. I was good enough to join his band. I was competent, but he really. It was like him learning his stuff and keeping up with him was like putting the fast forward button on my abilities. You know what I mean? I got to like jump. That's cool. I learned a lot from him.
Well, it's nice to like play with people, and that you can actually like grab something from. You know what I mean?
So From the Depths was me doing my thing, but my thing was heavily influenced by what I learned from him.
That's cool. That's cool. That's a lot of people wouldn't admit something like that. They'd be like, no, whatever. I don't know, but
I mean, I definitely took a lot. I still, I know it's still in my my DNA of is like his ripping style. I learned a lot from him. He was really good at it. Like, really good at like, not just as a player, but I mean, like more specifically, he was good at like coming up with wicked riffs, like just the riffs that like you're like, damn, man, that's fucking awesome, cool. And so I learned a lot from him in that way,
Have you ever wrote any lyrics or anything?
We had, so when From the Depths broke up a few years later, went through a few lineup changes and then just split up. I started a band with Dora called Dead of Night, and we made a demo, only one. We made one demo, and then I joined Ringworm. So it was real. It was a in between band kind of, but we made one demo, and we got Dwayne Morris, who keeps coming up in the silver and over again. We got him to sing, And but he's not a lyricist. He's not a writer. You know, he's got the voice. He's got a cool voice for it and shit.
Like a Vince Neil. Well, Vince Neil can't sing, but
I don't. Yeah. So he was all amped to do it, and he did a great job. But we had to write the lyrics. So me and the other guitar player Wayne Richards from Dora's other band, Soulless. Yeah. It's incestuous as fuck scene, you know.
Oh, but, I've said that many times on this. You know? Everything's incestuous here.
So Wayne Richards was the guitar player for Soulless, but at this time he was doing Dead of Night with me, and him. It was only a 4-song demo is all we ever completed. So I wrote 2 songs of lyrics, and he wrote 2 songs of lyrics, and that's really all the lyrics I've ever.
Where do you draw your inspiration from for that?
For lyrics?
Yeah,
I don't know. I wrote 2 songs.
Just trying to write something that sounds badass. Or
I guess the words, the songs needed words, and Dwayne wasn't going to do it, so me and Wayne just did it. Wade wrote songs about. One of the songs was about the movie Reanimator, or basically, and my songs were more like, just my songs were more like kind of what, just more like suicidal screaming songs or whatever, you know what I mean, or whatever, like
it's interesting to me just to kind of try and figure out where everyone draws their inspiration from,
Not Suicidal, the band. I'm not referring to Suicidal as in like dark, dark is what I meant.
Right. Okay, so tell me about, because you said Ringworm, so they were established at that point. You were probably pretty excited to get an opportunity to play with them, I would imagine?
Yeah, well, when I was in Blood of Christ back in 92, we were the opening band for it's now a famous the Palm Sunday show at Peabody's. It was turned into a big, I don't know, some kind of gang war thing.
Oh, really?
Beef between Cleveland and Columbus happened at that show, and there was some gunfire. I don't know all the details.
In the flats, right?
Yeah. Blood of Christ opened that show. So, and Ringworm and Integrity were it went us, then Ringworm, then Integrity. So that was my first time seeing Ringworm and Integrity. I had seen Die Hard, the previous version of, earlier incarnation of Integrity.
Sounds like a really
before.
fucking cool show.
Oh, it was fun. Yeah, but and back then James used to wear like half black and half white paint, kind of almost Gacy-ish, or whatever, and they were just they were really heavy, awesome band, I thought, and I followed them from then on out. I already knew Rojak was good friends with them. Tom was good friends with them, and he had dubbed me the record. I drove around in my car, listened to it all the time and shit before I'd seen him. So yeah, and James did all of the artwork for Blood of Christ, all the 7-inch cover and the shirt designs. James, the Human Furnace, was doing all that shit for us back when I was 20, but Tom knew him. I didn't really know him at the time, But yeah, so there was already that. I was familiar with Ringworm from real early on, and they played for a few years. They did a European tour, and then Frank joined Integrity, and it kind of fizzled. The band fizzled,
Okay.
And then a few years later, when Tom Rojak died, they reunited for a Tom Rojak benefit or a memorial show at the Fantasy.
How did he pass away?
He got into heroin and stuff, but he just got in real bad shape, and then he ended up one day he came home from partying or whatever, and he lived in his friend's basement. His friend had a house, he lived in the basement,
right.
And he had tripped up down the steps or whatever, and it's concrete down there, and he cracked his head and bled out down there. He wasn't gone when they found him, but he was pretty much gone when they found him. He died later that day in the hospital.
It's tragic, man.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, those sudden deaths like that, it's like, if somebody's, it's like a long, drawn out like death. It sucks to say, but it's almost not as bad as when it's just like, what the fuck just happened? Tragic accident.
I mean, everybody that knew Tom kind of
expected.
Nobody was, everybody. His lifestyle was insane. You know what I mean? He's very charismatic and awesome dude.
Sure.
He just liked to get fucking crazy. That's really crazy. But yeah, he was great. fighting thing aside, you know. I didn't want to get drug into fights every time we played a fucking show, but aside from that, I loved everything, you know. I loved hanging out with them and making music with them and all that, you know.
Well, what did they say? Live fast, die young.
Yeah, he definitely
a good-looking corpse.
He did that. He did that for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so Ringworm. So
Ringworm reformed at a memorial Rojak for Rojak, you know, and From the Depths also played that show, and we did a Blood of Christ set because
nice.
And Boulder played, and you know, Incantation played. It was a big awesome deal, you know. The show was, I think Terror played, you know.
Where was that at?
At the Fantasy, the upstairs, you know,
the boat.
Yeah, up there. Yeah, and so that was when Ringworm reformed for that. I think Kanye pushed for it. I think Kanye got those guys to reform.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then and they had Blaze play guitar. Blaze, you know,
Tishko.
Yeah, Blaze Tishko played guitar. He played in that first reformed version, and then they had.
See, I knew Blaze. Not from bands.
Oh, okay.
Hanging out, I was like, and he was like, I play with Integrity or whatever, you know.
yeah. But he was in Ringworm, so back in the.
I haven't seen him in a while. Back Little Italy, because he worked
late '90s.
Yeah, with the Corvos or whatever.
He played in Ringworm for a bit there. They did the Mattis Award demo with Blaze on it, and that's really good. There's a couple songs, and then they had Matt DeVries, who's Chimera's guitar player.
Okay.
Then Matt DeVries played briefly for maybe a year or two, maybe right around that, maybe. And then that's when I came in. Then it was after Matt Chimera was taken off, and Matt had to go. Sure. And Matt had to go, you know. And so and Dora was playing drums in Ringworm at the time, and that's where he brought me. Right? So I'd already been in bands with him for 7-8 years at this point, you know. So he brought me in, and Frank asked him. Frank was still playing in Ringworm at this time, but now he's in Hatebreed, you know. But at this time he was still in Ringworm, and he asked Chris, because Dead of Night would practice, and then Ringworm would come in right after, so we'd be leaving and they're coming in. We knew each other. We were acquainted, but they didn't really know. Frank didn't know much about me. Just knew that I played in Dora's other band or whatever, you know. And so he asked Chris, a couple questions about me before he had me join, and he's like, "Does he like Kiss?" And he's like, "It's his favorite band."
That's a requirement.
It's his favorite band. Okay, check. Does he drink? Yeah. He's like, "Oh, he loves to drink. He drinks pretty heavily, you know." Oh, check. Good. Does he play leads? Yep. He's Chris is like, he's a great lead player, really good lead player. He's like, all right, he's in. And then Chris called me and told me exactly that. No, I went up there and practiced with him, and I was already like in. At the first practice, he goes, "Do you know how to play Strutter?" And I'm like, I mean, kind of, not really. He's like, "Do you know how to play Deuce for the Kiss song?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And me and Dora had jammed that one many times before. And he's like, "Let's hear it." And me and Chris ran through the whole song, the solos and all. And Frank's like, "All right, we're covering Deuce." And
that's funny.
That was.
Well, you guys, because Dora's a big Kiss fan. So I actually got to talk to Dora on here through my friend Trip.
I know Trip real well.
Knows Trip, and been good friends with him for a while. You know what? I don't think I've given him too much credit on here, because he's actually been very active with getting people to talk on this.
Okay.
I don't think I give him the shout outs that he deserves on this. Trip, thanks.
It was
anyway,
Robbie. Robbie got me to come on here, but
yeah, Rob Stevens. Yeah, he called me up and he's like, "Dude, this guy would be perfect." And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course." But no, Trip, huge Kiss fan. Now, for me, Kiss. All right, you can.
You want to do a shot?
Yeah, I want to take a little
fucking
shooter.
Shot.
Yeah. Like, I thought Kiss was cool when I was a kid, and I don't know, they're cool. I appreciate them. I mean, obviously they influenced tons of people.
I mean, one thing you can't take away from them is that they made, if you like hard music of any kind, they probably made your favorite band pick up their instruments for the first time.
No, for sure.
You know,
well, for one, Pantera, one of my favorites. There probably wouldn't be a Dimebag Darrell without an Ace Frehley.
They made they didn't hide their love for Kiss at any point. I mean, that goes for all those 80s bands and all the all the bands that we all grew up with.
As a musician though, like, I mean, because Kiss is not, I mean, it's not like they're the most, I wouldn't say they're the most talented band.
I mean, it's they get by on chemistry between those four guys. Like the four guys just they all complement each other real well. You know.
And I think Gene Simmons has a knack for just writing good rock and roll songs.
Ace Frehley was a great guitar player. Really, his leads gave it a little bit of musical edge that the other would have been lacking without him. Yeah. You know.
But it is like a hard rock 101.
It is, yeah.
Class, you know,
especially I mean, I was born in '71, so and like I said, my dad got me into all that stuff, all the Sabbath and all that shit. But I really took to Alice Cooper more than all that because he had a snake wrapped around his neck and he was villainous and he had ghoulish makeup on and stuff. And so when I saw Kiss, plus my dad would go on beer runs daily and take me with him, and I could grab I'd grab a couple comic books while he's getting his beer, and he'd let me get those. And so I had all that Marvel Comics stuff and everything, and I saw that Kiss Destroyer album cover where they're jumping out of the ruins and they just look like four Marvel Comics Alice Cooper hybrids, and it was exact. I'm like, that's me. That's for me. That's for me right there. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, they did. Like I said, I was a kid. I didn't know their music from nothing, but I remember seeing pictures of them. I'm like, those guys are fucking cool, man. You know?
Yeah, I mean, kids were trading cards at school, Kiss cards, and I was, it was unavoidable. You go and watch Channel 43 on the way, and you watch Gilligan's Island and shit on when you go home from school, and the Jetsons and stuff, and the commercial is, Kiss double platinum or Kiss radio, a little cheap ass radio with Kiss on the outside. And I thought the radio only played Kiss songs because on the commercial that's all it does. But the radio is just a stupid radio, just with Kiss on the outside. But that stuff was all
marketing masters. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything they don't make.
No, and they were I think the Beatles had some toys and stuff before that, but Kiss is the one that really took that and ran with it, and everybody else followed though. And that Iron Maiden and AC/DC, you can buy all their bullshit too.
And I don't know much, but didn't Kiss kind of follow with the whole like putting out a bunch of albums like the Beatles did, like consecutively?
Kiss made a ridiculous amount of records in that first like 5-6 years or whatever. A lot. I mean, there's 2 live albums. There's six studio albums, 2 live albums. Then they each did a solo album, so 4 solo albums, and then Dynasty, and that's from 74 to 79. You know what I mean? All those records, and the double platinum compilation, the best of compilation. There was just shit ton of records in a really brief time where they were doing 2 a year. Yeah,
So do you do the Kiss cruise?
I went on 5 of them.
5?
Yeah,
just 5.
They've done 10. I went on 5. I went on 5 of them.
Yeah, because I know Trip comes over and they'll make T-shirts and stuff. They have a team and everything.
Trip. Yeah. I've been part of that. They've gave me those shirts before. I've been on a few of the ones that Trip was on like that.
That's cool. It seems like a good time. I mean, like I said, first time I went to Dora's house, I'm driving down the street and I'm just looking the picture window. And I see like Paul Stanley. I'm like, well, that's probably his house. I didn't even look at the address.
Yeah, for sure.
But okay, so, Kiss. And then, but the Ringworm thing. So you're in Ringworm now. I mean, that's got to be fucking started, cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was also after my first practice where we played Kiss. Me and Dora played Kiss and all that. After that night, we went to the Sports Inn on State Road and signed the Victory contract. So I'm just joined the band and I'm signing the contract with Victory Records at first practice. Wow. And we started working on the Birthless Pain record right away. So I joined right in time to be on the second record.
So then how'd that work out? So then, what, did you do some touring, or did you guys record, or what?
Yeah, we got in Dora's conversion van, like, he had like a nice van with recliners and a VCR and a TV in the back or whatever. We got in his van and went across the country and played with the band The Hoods, a Sacramento hardcore band called The Hoods.
Okay.
They were also on Victory at the time, and we got teamed up with them, and we did a U.S. tour.
Because Victory was hardcore. Well,
I mean, we kind of signed at the tail end of their hardcore days. They were switching over to like the haircut bands, the Aidens and stuff, with the makeup wearing kids, real skinny little kids with doing this all the time with their hair.
Romance,
yeah, whatever. I don't know, but yeah. So we kind of signed, and then they must have already been working that way, but we ended up being the last of our kind to sign to that label, us and Hoods maybe, and I think Hoods were able to finagle their way out of the contract, but we tried, and they would not. They basically, we were their like card, like when people would say, "What happened to your label? Where's all the hardcore bands?" They go, "Oh, we got Ringworm. There they are. We got Ringworm." And
I'm not racist. I have a black friend.
Right. So we got so we signed that contract when I was 30, and then it took till we did 4 albums. We owed them 4 albums, and we worked kind of slow then, and so it took till I was 40. A decade of our lives we had to work for Victory Records when we just didn't want to at all.
Were they throwing you on festivals and tours?
They weren't doing shit. I mean, if they were doing anything, we would have been okay with it. But they were, for the Birth is Pain record, they put full page ads in Metal Maniacs magazine, and they would hook up where we get a couple pages where they interview us in Metal Maniacs and Terrorizer or whatever, like in some of the they did a little bit of, they gave us a little push on that one. And then on Justice, the next one, Justice Replaced by Revenge, they actually did put a TV spot on for that record. It aired during like Headbangers Ball, and it aired during Jackass and stuff like that, or whatever. Nice. So they would air it during certain programs. MTV2 played it quite a lot, and then and they made a video for the song Justice, for the title track, Justice Replaced by Revenge. But and Jamie from Hatebreed was hosting Headbangers Ball at that time, and I think he probably had a hand in getting that on the air a couple times, and then those couple times turned into 20 times or something, because they replay the episodes. You know what I mean? The episodes play over and over again. So our video aired a lot. And so. But that was it. From that point on, the next record, the only advertisement they gave us was on the back cover of I think Metal Maniacs. There was a big ad, I think, for Aiden, one of the haircut bands or whatever, and it looked like a pencil, the pencil thin that went across the bottom, angled, that if you didn't, it just looked like it was part of the art for the Aiden thing, but it said Ringworm, the Venomous Grand Design, out whatever day, you know what I mean? And that was the only ad we ever saw for that record, and that's kind of how the last couple records went for us,
So when you got with Ringworm, was that the first time you toured as extensively as you did?
Yeah, mostly. All the other, like when From the Depths used to get on quite a few of the, like, we pretty much got on all the, it would be Milwaukee Metal Fest at the time, or there was Jersey ones that they did. I don't remember what the name of that one was, but this guy Don Decker, that he had a band called Anal Blast, but he would he liked the band a lot. He really liked From the Depths, and he would get a hold of Dwayne, and he released one of the records for us. He released a record called Elysium on his label, and he put us on those fests, and so we played with really good slots. Because he was, if we play in front of people, he sells the record, so he would put us in prime spots right before Impaled Nazarene or In Flames and all this shit on these fests. So we did a few things like that, but we didn't do anything major. And anytime we were offered anything good, which happened a few times, to go out and play with Impaled Nazarene, in New York City, and a couple surrounding gigs or whatever and stuff like that.
At the barbecue.
Oh, see Ringworm? Yeah. This is From the Depths I'm talking about, though. It's From the Depths times.
From the Depths was from the first touring kind of thing.
I mean, touring is putting it is exaggerating a little, but playing all those fests, like going to Milwaukee and playing the fest, going to New Jersey playing the fests, that was like the first time really getting out there and doing that kind of thing, And then Ringworm was the first time we actually got in the van and just did it the way you're supposed to do it. You know.
Right. So you saw a lot of cities that you probably
yeah. My touring was pretty limited before Ringworm. Jersey, Milwaukee, Detroit, Pittsburgh, whatever. Like shit like that. And then with Ringworm, we went everywhere.
International.
Yeah, we did Europe pretty early on, and many times since now, probably eight times or something. I'm guessing. We did Australia, New Zealand 3 times. I also played in a band with Tim Owens after his Judas Priest time called Beyond Fear, and that took me and Ed and a couple, some of our dudes, to Ed Stevens. He plays in Ringworm and my death metal band Shed the Skin, and my rock band Rip Ride, and we just joined a band with Brian Sekula and Joe Twardzik from Civil Disobedience and Terror, and they got a band called Vadiat, and we played on their record as well, and we're gonna start playing with them eventually here. Nice. So we're in four bands together, me and Ed. So
what was it about like doing that extensive touring? What'd you get out of that, man? I mean,
the first tour, the Birth is Pain tour, we went out on the road and we weren't good at it yet. We weren't good at the money end of it at all, and we didn't plan it out right.
You didn't have a manager?
No. Yeah. No. We had a booking agent.
Are we talking about From the Depths now?
No, this is Ringworm. Yeah, okay. Ringworm. Yeah, Ringworm. The Birth is Pain tour. We were.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. No, we were traveling around, and we were. It was a month-long tour. We went everywhere in the States pretty much, and we were getting hotels, and we were spending more than we were making, I think. And we got back from the tour, and when we split up the money, what was left, 5 equal ways or whatever, we each got $60, and we had to go back home and try and pay our bills and shit like that on $60. And so any credit card bills I had or whatever, those just got thrown in the trash, and I tried to keep my roof over my head, instead. Totally ruined my credit for years, and just from one Ringworm tour.
Hey, but I'm sure it was worth it, though. That had been a blast.
In the end, all the things we've done since then that we wouldn't have done if we didn't do that first one, were awesome. So, I've seen a whole bunch of the world that I wouldn't have seen otherwise, probably, and I have no complaints,
What was, because I know I worked for an airline for a little while, I still do, and I know traveling kind of gave me a lot of perspective. I don't know if I'm doing it the same. I always wanted to be in a band and go on tour.
Yeah.
I never did that, but I went on tour.
Right. Oh, yeah, you're just flying around. Yeah.
And it gives you perspective. Like I always say, people are like, oh, people in this country or this state or this city or whatever, I hear they're shitty. No, wherever you go, there's shitty people and there's cool people.
Sure,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? Anywhere. And I think that was the perspective it gave me, because you're if you never leave this country, you kind of think everything else is shit because you were all propagated, hey, America's the best, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's you go other places and it's there's fucking cool shit going on everywhere.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, so what was it that you could take from that? What were some good times you had? What was your favorite country you went to?
We always have good times in Australia.
Yeah,
they come out for the shows, so it's that helps. You know what I mean? Shows are good there. The turnouts are good. The people are it's very Americanized, kind of. You know what I mean? You go to certain places in Europe and stuff, and the food is so strange, and and no one understands what you're saying, and you go to Australia, you don't really have that culture shock so much. You know what I mean? They just have an accent,
which is crazy because it's so far away.
Yeah. But so I like Australia a lot. Australia and New Zealand is cool too. New Zealand's just beautiful.
Sure.
The shows aren't great because their population is next to nothing. It's not very populated, that place. But they treat you good, and you get to see. You go out for a week driving around New Zealand. And just looking out the window, you're not driving, you're just riding, you just see so much Lord of the Rings awesomeness, you know what I mean? And shit, it's really cool. I took my girl down there. I met Joey. I've been with her for 20 years now. On the third trip down there, she was finally like, put her foot down, like, motherfucker, I'm going with you. I was like, all right.
I know. You know what? Nobody ever thinks about that. The significant other of the guy that's in a band touring all over. That girl's probably like going, what the fuck?
Yeah, how many times are you going to go to this awesome place and then not take me? So finally I'm like, okay, you're right. And I spent more than we made, to today take her down there. But she loved it. It was and it was cool seeing her experience it, and
well, you like to share the things, with the people you love. Yeah.
So we're playing like, packed house in Melbourne. People bouncing off the walls, and she's like doesn't have to just hear about it.
Yeah.
And she got to see all the awesome scenery on the way there. She had a really good time. She's been back on her own since then. She went back to Australia on her. Really? She flew down there again. But so Australia is really cool. New Zealand's really cool. Just Europe is fun in general too, when you get to go over there and travel from country to country. Every day is a different place,
I've never been to Australia. I would love to go to New Zealand. In that part of the world, I've been to Japan, but which is super cool.
We have not. That's one place I've not been. Yeah, no Japan.
I was waiting for the big in Japan story.
Japan is everybody's favorite place, but I can't claim it because I've not been there. Unfortunately,
but I've never been to Australia, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I want to go to Australia." And I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like it would be like here.
I guess maybe that's part of what I liked about it. But it is and it isn't. I mean, there's kangaroos jumping around everywhere, and you definitely know you're not here.
The mammals are different. They evolve differently. Which is crazy.
Yeah, I guess it is. It's kind of similar to, there's similarities more so than other places you go.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, okay. So you were. So you've been doing Ringworm for how long now?
21 years. Wow. 2001 to now,
Wow. There is a person that was born when you started the band, and now they can drink.
That's true. Yeah. Yes, I've actually said that before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So is it getting old or what?
I know. I mean, we're finishing up. We're halfway. Well, the music's completely finished for a new record, and James is halfway through. Let's do it. Yeah. And James is he's got 5 songs out of 10 where he's done the vocals already.
I've been in contact with James. He was supposed to be coming on here.
He said that to me when I told him I was doing it. He said that.
Yeah. So you beat him.
Yeah. That's because of Robbie. Robbie's like, you need to go do that thing. I'm like, all right.
He said, well, obviously, I mean, he's a busy guy, I'm sure.
He is,
because he's doing the Gluttons.
He's got his tattoo shop, 252. Yeah. Plus he's constantly, he does the Evil Ohio stuff and the heavy metal baseball, and he spends a lot of time drawing those shirt designs and all that shit. A lot. I've sat behind him in the van for 8-hour drives where he works on one thing the entire time. He definitely puts a lot of time and effort into what he does. And so he is very busy. He's always doing shit. Always.
Well, I mean, he must be a hard worker. I mean, because
he does the album covers for Ringworm most of the time. Yeah. Not every single one, but he does, and he puts 200 plus hours into them. He did the first 3 Shed the Skin album covers, and we just put out a 4th record, and we changed it up. For one, it takes a really long time, so it pushes your record back. But that's not the reason I switched artists. I kind of felt guilty robbing him, like every time because he's not making a shit ton of money from us. We give him like $1,000 or $1,500 or something. And when you break that down hourly and you're doing over 200 hours on a picture, I just started to feel guilty. Like we could get someone. We got 3 record covers. They look amazing. we'll get somebody else this time and let James have those 200 hours of his life for something else, you know.
Well, but I'm sure he loves doing it.
He does,
I mean,
and he does an amazing job. It looks so cool, you know. But he was relieved. He was like, you're good. Yeah, we got Justin from Axioma to do it.
Nice.
That's who I ended up doing, and he does great shit. And
Justin's awesome.
And it's a completely different style than James, so it won't get compared. It won't be like, because everybody loved the record covers that we had on the first 3 records. Everybody raved about them, and it was always something that was talked about in the reviews and stuff was the art. Yeah. And so we didn't want to get somebody to do a similar thing, and Justin does a completely different thing, so it worked, you know.
Yeah, I really like Justin's style.
He did a great job. The album cover looks really cool, really fucking cool.
Well, this is him right here.
yeah.
But here, let's do this thing. All right, and then what are we going to talk about now? So, and that's Ringworm. That's what you're doing. That's you don't have any other active side things right now?
I got four other active things.
Let's talk about those.
Well, Shed the Skin is the band I was just talking about that Justin did the artwork for the album cover, and James did the previous 3 album covers. But
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about Ringworm.
No. Okay. Ringworm. I'm imagining James will do the art for the new Ringworm because at this stage in the game, every record could be the last one, and he definitely wants to do the last one. You know,
so you guys are young.
I don't think it'll be the last one, but you never fucking know. You never know. You never know how shit plays out. So, so that Shed the Skin, that's a death metal band that we put together. In 2012, it was the 15th anniversary of Tom Rojak's death. Here he comes back into the play again, and we were gonna Dwayne Morris again. Dwayne Morris. He got a hold of me about, dude, I want to put together a lineup to play a Blood of Christ set in tribute to Tom's 15th anniversary of his passing.
That's cool.
And we did that at the Jigsaw. I didn't know who I would get to play drums though, because of the members of Blood of Christ, I was the only one still here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Still playing. You know what I mean? So couple dudes were dead, so on the first demo, I wasn't on the first demo, but from the first demo, the drummer is the only surviving. They were a 3-piece and 2 of them are gone, so.
Usually the drummer's the one that spontaneously
he's alive. Me and Ed play in Vadiat with him and Brian Sekula.
Okay.
But and Ed was in Civil Disobedience with Joe before Blood of Christ, so Ed has all kinds of history with Joe. But anyway, we did that Blood of Christ tribute set at the Jigsaw in Parma, the bowling alley, and
I know Jigsaw. I did a lot of their flyers.
And
Phil Lara. That's a whole conversation. But go ahead.
I don't know. I guess Phil was already running it then. I don't know. But in 2012, I'm not sure. Yeah. But that show was just a lot. Okay, so Aaron Dallison suggested that I didn't know who to get on drums. Who am I going to get? Preferably,
Chris Dorr. Come on.
Well, I don't know why that didn't. He did play some of the. He came on and did a couple Decrepit songs with us, but I don't know why he didn't do the entire thing. But Aaron said, "Why don't you call Kyle?" Kyle still plays an incantation, so his death metal chops are still good to go. And he was great friends with Rojak. It all made sense. Okay, so I called Kyle, and he jumped on it right away, and Dwayne did the Rojak role. He played guitar and rhythm guitar and sang. I played lead guitar. Ed Stevens played bass, and Kyle played the drums. And we ended up having so much fun with that show that about a month later, Kyle sent me a text and he's like, "I'm still buzzed from that show. I'm still on a high from that show. That was so much fun." And he's like, "Do you want to start up a band like that?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so we named it after a Blood of Christ song, which that's where the name Shed the Skin comes from. Okay. There was a song called Shed the Skin. And that we've been a band ever since. Now we just put out our 4th record on Hell's Headbangers in May, so real recently,
Yeah, nice.
And so there's that one. That's one band. There's during the pandemic, or actually right when we realized we were probably going to lose our jobs any day now, me and Aaron, we went to the Dallas class to see The Obsessed, and we'd already seen that in recent days, right before that, South by Southwest was canceled.
Yeah.
Seattle put a ban on gatherings over 200, I think, at the time, or maybe it was 150, whatever it was. We work in a venue that holds 1,300, so we knew as this is going to come, this is going to hit us any day now. And so we were talking about it after we watched the Obsessed play. You know, we were sitting at the bar side having a beer and talking about it, and he's like, well, we're going to have a lot of free time. You know, it's like, let's start a band. And I'm like, all right. And when I got home, he had texted me he had the whole thing mapped out. He's like, we'll be Discharge style. Lyrical content will be about what's going on around us right now, all this craziness, you know. He said he wanted to call it End Times originally, but that name ended up already being used, you know.
Very common,
so that became the album title instead.
Okay.
But he already knew we were gonna ask Kyle again, same Shed the Skin drummer, Incantation drummer, old Escalation Anger drummer with Aaron 30 years ago, you know. So we Kyle and Mike Lair, who plays the other guitar in Ringworm, and he's like, he already knew he would share vocal duties with Lair. They would kind of go back and forth like a Neurosis style thing, sort of, but over Discharge riffs or Discharge-ish riffs, you know. And that's the band. That's what it. And we had that record written in the first 10 days from 10 days of talking about it. We had a whole record. Me and Aaron mostly had a whole record written, and then he had lyrics and everything, you know. And then and we had the whole thing recorded within 3 months. Within 3 months, it was mixed, mastered, and by the end and it came out in December of 2020. So there was no band in March of 2020. And in December of 2020, you could buy the vinyl. You know, so that came together real good. That was our first pandemic project, you know. Then I started writing the fourth Shed the Skin record as soon as I was done writing for Perdition Sect. While we're still working on Perdition Sect, I had all this nervous energy. And all of a sudden, because Joey, my girl, she bartends at the House of Blues, so we're both all of a sudden, our whole income is nothing now. All of a sudden, and you couldn't get a hold of unemployment at the time. Millions of people were trying to get through to them. It was a crazy. It was crazy. Plus, you didn't know what was true and what was false about the virus and how deadly it was, and it was just all really like it was a weird time. It was a weird time. So I spent every day like writing for a record. So the Perdition Sect record came together real quick. Then I started working on the Shed the Skin record, fourth Shed the Skin record, which just came out in May. And then I still had energy and nowhere to go and nothing to do with it. So I started years ago, Wayne Richards from Soulless and Dead of Night, I talked about earlier. He had said, you know, when we're older, let's start like a hard rock band, like a Kiss, Def Leppard, whatever. Like let's start the band we would have started when we were 13 if we were good when we were 13, you know, or whatever. And so I started writing for that, and I sent him a couple songs, and he right away he's like, yeah, let's fucking do it. And then we put together this band.
Hard rock or what?
It just sounds like, if you listen to it, it's got Def Leppard High and Dry vibes all over it, you know, and some 70s Kiss style too. Yeah, we put it out. We tried real hard to get somebody to put it out, but the 2020 was not the time to get a unknown band signed because labels were getting assaulted with records from bands they already have on their label, you know, because everybody was just recording because they can't do anything else, you know.
I know Cougar was telling me Axioma had like everything set up, and then that hit happened, and just they put a freeze on it.
Yeah, it's true. We had a Ringworm record written. It's finally now getting done, but we just kind of we backburnered it because I started doing all these other things, and so Perdition Sect put out a record right away. Shed the Skin one got finished and finally came out in May. The Rip Ride record came out. We started two bands during the pandemic that didn't exist prior and now have records out. And then and now the Ringworm record's almost done. And me and Ed played on that Vadiat thing with Brian Sakula and Joe Twards. So there's five records.
That's crazy. Finished. You're a busy guy, dude.
More records than I recorded with Ringworm in a decade, from 30 to 40. There was 4 records at that time, and then I've done 5 records in the last since March of 2020. Yeah.
So you kind of brushed over the Perdition Sect thing. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. How'd that come about?
I did. I mean, if you were to go back, I kind of already did. I did go into great detail about that, actually. But
was it? No.
I said that's the band where we were. Me and Aaron were watching The Obsessed. We came up with said we need to do this band. Yeah.
Who else is in the band?
Kyle and Lair. Kyle Severn and Mike Lair.
And they played in.
Kyle's in Incantation, Shed the Skin. Also with me, not Incantations with me, but
man, you're giving me a lot of information. Yeah,
you're
just trying to
You're just getting confused with all the onslaught of information. And maybe I'm not doing.
I'm trying to keep up. Like you laid out like 5 bands like within like 5 minutes, and I'm like trying to like keep up.
Perdition Sect. I did go over it pretty good though. When you're editing,
everyone rewind.
When you're editing this, you'll see that I did actually go over it pretty good.
Okay, so What style of music? Like what?
Perdition Sect?
Yeah.
It's like it was meant to sound like Discharge, D beat hardcore. Like with a metallic edge.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Nice. And so you just had time. You just had time to like work on all this different stuff, and you made good use of your time.
I did.
A lot of people said they were going to do things. But they didn't.
I finished 5 records with 5 different bands.
That's crazy.
I mean, the Ringworm one's almost finished, so that'll be 5 records with 5 different bands, 2 of which didn't exist before March of 2020.
That's crazy. Wow. No, dude. Yeah, good for you, man. I mean, that's awesome. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people just kind of like during the whole pandemic thing, I think they just kind of like took a break.
I mean, I didn't do much aside from just sit with a guitar and a practice amp and eat edibles and come up with riffs. That's pretty much what I did.
Yeah. Wow. So what's next, man? What do you got? Like tours going on because you got to make up for lost time. What are you going to tour with all these bands now?
No, definitely not. Shed the Skin doesn't tour mostly because Kyle owns his own construction company, and he actually even quit touring with Incantation, and they have a young kid that goes out and does it. He still records the records with them. But so that band will never do any real touring. We just went to North Carolina and played a fest a couple weeks ago, so we get out there and play when we can, but it's not going to go. We're not jumping in a van and going out for a month or whatever. No. Ringworm is the only band that really does that, and that I'm in. But and we do have in August we're going out for a week, I think, maybe 10 days or something like that with All Out War, another band from another band that was on Victory Records at the time. We were on Victory Records, another metallic hardcore band, very much like us, And in October, late October, we go out for a couple weeks, for 3 weeks maybe, with Venom Inc., which is Mantis, the guitar player from Venom. His version of Venom. They go out and play Venom songs, and they have their own records as well. And I Hate God. So it's Venom Inc., I Hate God, Ringworm, and a band I think called Cult of Lilith or something like that. That was our first band, an opener.
That's cool.
That's going on in October. So we have a couple things lined up. Ringworm does.
Nice. And just a couple shows, no big tour or nothing like that.
I mean, it's the first one's about a week long, and the second one's about 3 weeks long. I think. And that's all we have booked at the moment.
Okay.
But the record should be out. I mean, the record will be out sometime in 2023, I would think.
Oh, really?
And so then we'll probably do something after that. Well, I mean, record plants are so far behind and shit now. You turn in a record. We turned in the Rip Ride record to Got a Groove. In April of, we turned it in May of 2021, and it finally came out in the last couple days of April this year. So records are like you're looking at a year sometime, or somewhere in that ballpark to get pressed. The plants are just getting bombarded.
Well, I'm sure right now. I mean, everyone's trying to do something because they can now, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, what else? I mean, you got, I don't want to embarrass myself again. Because I'm asking you questions. Apparently, you told me.
I did. Yeah, I think you just don't know which band. Like, we're going so quickly through it that you don't know which band I'm talking about when I'm talking.
I'm at a point right now. I'm afraid to ask a question.
It might get pretty confusing. I mean, I can see how it could get confusing since there's 5 bands that we're talking about. All maybe I need to clarify.
And how many of those are Dora in?
Dora currently is in none of those 5 bands, okay. But he's been affiliated with them in the past. Some of them,
It just seems like everybody plays. It seems like he's played in every band.
He has. I mean, I've been in with him. I've been in Decrepit. I've been in Dead of Night and Soulless and Ringworm.
Wow.
I think that's it. I've been in 4 bands with him over the years. Yeah.
That's cool, man. No, dude. You know what I really enjoy about doing this is I get this information, because I mean, growing up in Cleveland, you just know and if you're in the metal scene, you're if you like heavy metal at all, you can't avoid Ringworm, Integrity, Mushroomhead.
Sure.
You can't avoid these things, and to have, I'm gonna go ahead and call you a legend. To have a legend, sit here and talk to me. I think that's pretty fucking cool, man.
Legend just means you're old. It just means you've been doing it a long ass time. I'll take it, I guess.
No, I mean you're obviously working. You're working hard, and So did we? Oh yeah, you're using the Gibson now.
Yeah, I got a bunch of Gibsons, but I like to use the V's mostly.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, that's what. But I got SGs and Explorers and Les Pauls. I
always said if I got another guitar, I'd probably get an SG.
SGs are cool. I've had the same 1988 Showcase Edition SG since sometime in the 90s. I didn't get it in '88 when it was made, but yeah, sometime I've had that for 30 years probably.
So let's get a little techie. I don't normally like to do this, but what is your rig?
I have 2 different two of the same amp. It's a Marshall JCM 800 1985. I have 2 of those. Yeah. That's what I like to use. I have the and Gibsons, and I just pretty minimal on the pedals. I use a Tube Screamer in front of it, or it's a Tube Screamer clone actually, it's made by Strictly 7, but
it's not the Maxon.
I mean, it's basically the same. It's a handmade version of that. It's a clone. Yeah. It's a clone, and it sounds really good. And I got that EQ that I'm looking at right there. I put that like. Let me see that thing. Do you mind if I fuck with it?
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. I put it like right across the middle, and then I just use this like up here, and I kick it on for solos. I kick it on for solos, and then it's louder. It's louder. Yeah, I just use that as a boost. I use that as a boost.
Yeah. I don't currently have that in my. I never really. I use I have a triple rectifier with the 412, and then I basically just use the distortion on that. I have a Boss noise reduction pedal.
Yeah, of course, I have the same one.
Yeah, and then that's it.
Yeah, I have the Boss tuner, the Boss EQ, the Boss noise reduction, and that Tube Screamer clone, and a delay pedal that I also, when I do the solos, I kick both of those on.
So yeah, I'm playing with a band right now where I had to get a chorus, so I did the TC Electronics chorus and delay.
All right.
And so and that's the most effects I think I use.
I'm pretty minimal with it.
Yeah. So and that's basically your thing all the time, the JCM, and then that's your sound.
Yeah, for Rip Ride, it's more of a Kiss, Def Leppard type of sound I'm going for. So I just dial back a little bit, but it's the same rig. I just dial back the pedal a little bit,
right.
Not try to get it. It's not trying to get like a Celtic Frost sound like I am in the other bands. And so I pull it back to where it sounds more like rock,
right.
But it's the same rig all the time.
Yeah. No, dude, and it sounds great. I mean, what you're using, I mean, that's classic, dude. I mean, that's like a classic sound.
Yeah, I'm just, I like I want it to sound like the records from the 80s that I grew up with. That's what I want, and there's no better way to get that sound.
Less reverb, though.
Yeah, true, yeah. But there's no better way to get that sound than to use what they were using, you know, and a lot of guys were using JCM 800s. Piggy from Voivod was using JCM 800s, you know, like Slayer was using JCM 800s, you know, if you want. So I get that sound. Tom G. Warrior, Celtic Frost, JCM 800. So a lot of the guys that I was trying to emulate were using that amp, and that's the amp I like to use. You know?
Well, here's to the JCM 800.
Absolutely.
See, I had to get the triple rack just because we talked about Metallica. So, I mean, I had to. I don't think that's what they use now.
No, and when they did use boogies back when they were first started using boogies, which is Master of Puppets, I think that I believe that was the Mark IV. They were.
Oh, it wasn't even the triple.
No, I don't even think they made the rectifiers yet at that time. You know, the Mark IV was the current.
Yeah,
boogie,
I just knew Metallica used Mesa Boogie, and I was like, "Fuck it."
Yeah, that is true. I don't really like the triple rec. Aaron Dowell from he plays in Gluttons now, but he was in a bunch of Urba's Stepsister and stuff with Urba, you know, and Fuck You Pay Me and all that.
Yeah.
He's got a single rectifier, and that thing sounds really good. And I always ask him, like, why doesn't that sound like shit? It's a rectifier. And he's like, because it's not the triple, it's a single. Like, oh, the single rectifier sounds pretty Marshall-y, a little bit more so. You know what I mean? You know.
Do you remember the band Kung Fu Grip?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chuck.
Vaguely. I remember the name.
Yeah, Chuck Howell, he sold me that triple rec. I think it was like $700. It was a steal. You know? But yeah, same thing. He just didn't like the sound.
It sounds
ended up getting the Mark IV. Yeah.
It sounds like bacon frying or something.
Yeah.
You know,
I like it.
Hey, a lot of people do. It's a popular amp. I'm not talking shit. I'm just saying I'm just telling you what I don't like about it.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly what he said. It was just too much for what he was doing. He just wanted more of a rock and roll sound, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, even with the in the metal bands where I'm trying to get where I want it to be, like over the top, I still don't like the triple rectifiers. You know, it's still not the way I want to go about it, getting that sound. You know. Yeah. I like the Marshall. Yeah, I just like the Marshall.
Yeah. I was recently playing in a band, and this guy would build his own amps and stuff, and they were all based off of Marshall JCMs and stuff like that.
The JCM 800's great, or the Silver Jubilee. Those are amazing. You know, or the older ones, the Plexis and stuff that from the 70s and shit. You know, those are also great. You know.
All right, so let's go. Let's do a little bit more Cleveland stuff. What's your favorite venue to play at in Cleveland?
Class now, no Class now. Now it's no Class.
New ownership.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's just it's like shitty in the best way, you know. Like it's, I don't know. Paul was always good to bands, and it's always fun. It's always a fun time, and the sound is pretty decent for what it is, you know. And it's kind of got a. It's like Cleveland's CBGBs or something, kind of, you know what I mean? You know, it's just a cool.
I would say that.
It's got a cool vibe, and I love the Jockhams. I love Mike and Emma. They're cool, you know, and so.
Well, because there's no more. Because I would have said that. Well, you got Grog Shop, and Euclid Tavern.
Grog's cool. Grog's cool.
Yeah.
Cleveland's got a lot of good venues and has over the years. Some that are long gone, but still, there's always been multiple choices for playing heavy music in Cleveland. You know, like if somebody had a show at one place, you could play another one. Doesn't mean it'll be good. Turnout might not be great, but there's the venues are there. You know what I mean? That's how it's always been that way. So that's cool. You know, about Cleveland. I mean, you know.
No, it's cool, and they're like you said. I think no class.
Yeah, it's hard to say that, huh?
I know, it's like you get so used to class, but I mean, it doesn't get more punk rock than that.
I love that place. I love, it's fun to play there, and it's, you know, it's just a good
plug and play.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, dude. Thanks for coming by, man.
Hell yeah. Sorry I confused you with the onslaught of bands you didn't know what I was talking about.
That's okay.
Hopefully the people listening can decipher it.
I'm going off of no sleep actually right now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right.
that's, I'm gonna blame it on that.
Yeah.
But dude, no, you have a lot going on, man. That's awesome. You know, for some reason, like I just thought, like, because I knew Perdition Sect, because you know I kind of.
Because you're wearing an Axioma shirt. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to hear more about that. But I guess you. I
did. If you when you're editing it, you'll go, oh, he did tell me every fucking detail about the fucking thing.
That's funny. Hey, you know what? That's the first mistake I ever made. No, but dude, Matt, dude, it's seriously, thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah, awesome. Dude, it was fun.
Hopefully, it's not the last time I see you. And no, but I don't. Yeah, so you're just going out for Ringworm, and you're gonna play some shows. You're putting out a new album next year, though. I can't believe it's so far away.
It's not finished. He's got 5 songs to sing. It's gonna take him. He does like one a week. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
He does like one song a week. He's gonna do those, and so that you're looking at by the time it's mixed and mastered, it's gonna be later. You know, probably the fall, and then you turn it into to the label, which at the time we're still working out who that's going to be, even, you know what I mean? So it's going to be next year. It'll be next year.
Okay.
You know?
Well, looking forward to it. Everyone, check out the new Ringworm and every fucking other band this fucking guy's in. Fucking guy's a legend. Sub CLE. We're out.